What is your take on hard paywalls? Essentially no X on the paywall.
Whether it's worth it is a little bit hard to compute. Let's say you have a soft paywall. If that's the case, a user might convert when they first download the app. They might convert within the first day or the first month or the first year. What you're missing out on with the hard paywall is those later conversions that happen after the first install, right? Because they're not going to keep coming back if you have a hard paywall. They're not going to be able to do anything. So what you really need to do is look at your install to paywall conversion rate over the course of an entire customer's lifetime. So maybe call it 30 days. So on day one, your install to trial rate might only be 8%. But if you increase the funnel time to like 30 days, it might be 11%. So if you run a hard paywall test, you might see that 9% convert, which is higher than 8, but it's lower than that 11 after 30 days. So I would look at how long it takes majority of your customers to convert. And maybe at 30 days, people just stop converting altogether, and that's 11%. So just make sure when you're running your hard paywall test that you're comparing it to that number and not to your day one number.
My take is if you're under $1,000 a month, try a hard paywall. It does work pretty well. So try it out first and then eventually get more sophisticated.
Some apps create 2 or more subscriptions for the same content and duration, but with different prices. Then they show the cheaper option in the app as a limited time offer, showing the more expensive as a strike through. This is misleading for the user because in fact, it is not a limited time offer and the user can go to device settings and always choose any subscription they like. Is that practice allowed? So that practice is totally allowed. It's really what it is it's a quick way to determine if setting this up is actually worth it. Building a sense of urgency is a very good way to get somebody to convert. You're definitely backing them into a decision, but the entire retail industry does this with limited time sale offers and consumers are very used to it. So I think it's totally fair game to show a more expensive price with a strike through and showing the cheaper price as a limited time offer. And if customers complain, you can always put them in different subscription groups, but less than 1 in 10,000 users end up complaining about a cheaper price or whatnot like that.
Yeah, and I've seen even like doing urgencies. One person who went from $250 a month to $1,000 a month, Jake, he had this like at the bottom, like this is a very limited offer. Yeah, $1,000. So only 15 downloads too. And he has this little like timer set as well. And so I've seen those timers. You want to add some urgency. If you read Influence by Robert Cialdini, urgency is one of the factors that pushes people to finally convert. The trial conversion rate is your paywall optimization, whereas your trial to sub rate is how good your product is. What do you think about
your install to trial? Is a signal to how big the problem you're solving. So at first glance, will this product solve this problem for me? Because for the worst problems, they don't even care what's on the paywall. I think as install to trial is how big of a problem this is for the user. Trial to paid is, of course, how good your solution is.
I saw it with a client that has like 1 million downloads a month. When they started showing the paywall during the onboarding, because their main objective was to increase the retention. Well, when they showed the paywall during the onboarding, they actually saw an increase in revenue and consequently an increase in retention as well.
So this happens a lot with fitness because somebody will start the trial if they agree that the problem is real, right? So, they want to look better or they want to feel better or they want to hit the gym more. That problem is very real. They download your app and by making them start the trial, you're forcing the customer to put their money where their mouth is. So I would think that someone who paid for a gym membership is more likely to go to the gym than someone who didn't. That said, people really, I think only 20% of people who have a gym membership go on a regular basis. It's very industry specific on if paying increases retention or not.
Is it good to show 3 premium plans in a single paywall, just showing the yearly and being like, that's all the options you got? What's your take on this?
Conversion rates go up the more products you have, but usually LTV goes down the more products you have. I think 2 products performs 60% better than 1 product. Usually more products increases the conversion rate. However, you'll have less people doing your highest LTV product, right? So that's sort of, so there it is. So these are the top 15 apps and they all ran tests where there were 1, 2, or 3 products. And just by looking at it, you can see that like 2 products is usually better than the 1 product.
So these are
And
conversion
3,
rates, this one app, 2 products versus 3, 3 1, and then 1, 2, and 3, 3 1. But then I guess your LTV might suffer.
It's worth noting, 3 products don't mean 3 separate products. They're 3 different prices, right? So it's like weekly, monthly, annual, or whatever, lifetime, all that. Now, it makes sense that conversion rate goes up because you're offering more options to someone who is, maybe a little iffy about converting. So there's more of a price for everyone. Now, the issue is you have people who would have converted at your annual price and paid all this up front, but now they're just going to stick to their cheaper monthly price because why not pay a month and just kind of see how it goes, then maybe subscribe to the annual later. So that's what I mean by you lose out on LTV. Instead of having 5 people paying you 100, you might have 3 people paying you 100, 3 people paying you 20, and 3 people paying you 5. Most time, it's really hard to beat an annual LTV if the annual price is half the annualized revenue of a monthly. So what I mean by that is if your monthly is $10 a month and you ran a test against $60 a year, because 10 times 12 is 120. So annual is essentially 50% off. It's really, really hard for that monthly product to beat the annual. And if your retention is so strong that your monthly is beating the annual, then I say stick with monthly. It's just so hard to actually do that. So we find a lot of people moving towards annual. And then there's also the time value of money and what your opportunity cost is with your money. So most, some of these bigger apps, they're investing money into growth all the time. And so their growth is limited by how much cash they actually have on hand. So to them, it might even be worth taking a haircut on LTV by selling annuals just so that they could spend more on marketing that month, which will then be more growth and stuff like that.
So I really wanted to do this on my own app because we do have 3 options, right? We have a monthly, we have a semi, 6 month, and then we have a yearly. And the 6 month is about $10 less than the yearly. So it's complete decoy and nobody buys that. All right. And the monthly does not have a trial. So to your point, yes, I'm going to suffer an LTV, but I'm going to make it up by the fact that I'm not going to force you to do it. You either have to decide if you want the trial, you got to opt in for the yearly. And to your earlier point, like, is this a real need, right? Like, are you that trial, install the trial? Is there a real need? And if the bigger it is, there's, the higher it is, there's a real need to it. We are seeing that. And so I've been saying like, hey, if you're going to launch an app, I strongly believe, and I'll fight anybody, that 3 is the best option. And from an LTV perspective, I don't care what the hell it is, because there's the desired option I want you to take. There's a decoy one, and then there is like the cheap one or whatever, the throwaway, right? So that's how I see it. And that's why I like the 3, because then I have that third one as a decoy to get you into the one that I want you to do.
The decoy one is a good idea. I've only been, I've worked closely with one customer that did this decoy thing. It didn't work that well for them, but I will say that their retention was so strong that their monthly, like they were doing $20 a month, and that was their highest LTV product. So that's always different.
Yeah.
If you have a really, really good product, your paywall almost matters less. Honestly.
Yeah, it's true. It's like Netflix. I don't know why Netflix and any of these streamings, they don't have any yearly options. It's all monthly.
Yeah, because
you know what I mean?
It does. People won't convert anyway. People won't churn anyway. So you may as well just maximize for LTV.
Yeah, exactly. So it is worth testing.
But
monthly,
famously,
weekly, sometimes.
Famously, Amazon always did Prime as yearly.
Yeah, right.
Right. So, but why? And it's because they would famously always reinvest in growth. They never cared about profits. They wanted more money up front so they can reinvest more in growth in the short term. And so to me, it makes sense that they did annual.